Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you could join me tonight. And you're going to be glad you joined me too, because I have another spectacular book. You know, I love all the books that I read, that I interview people on, but this one was very special because not only was it enlightening, but it sort of reinforced a lot of the things that I've been having, thoughts I've been having in my own head. And it made me feel not quite so alone with my philosophies. The book we're going to be talking about is The Miracle of Our Universe, A New View of Consciousness, God, Science, and Reality. It's a book that is so worth reading. It's just unbelievable. It doesn't necessarily, it's not meant to sway you, but it's meant to give you another philosophy that's out there that might be of interest to you. Bernard Haisch and Marsha Sims explore the frontiers of science, consciousness, and God, revolutionizing our understanding of the universe and what's behind it all. The hypothesis presented in The Miracle of Our Universe is that our seemingly physical universe of matter and energy is actually a virtual simulation that has been thought into existence by a universal consciousness that we call God. Have you ever wondered why and how the world around you came to exist, and whether there might be another experience awaiting you after the physical body dies? Might there be a God and a heaven of some sort, and our near-death experience is real? What is the zero-point field, and is there some place that God could have come from? How does the Big Bang figure into all of this, and is there an afterlife, and what could it be like, and what's its purpose? And what is the purpose of life, and why is hell impossible? I mean, these and many other questions are answered, and I have to tell you, I've already recommended the book to a number of people, and I've had a number come back to me and say, wow, just wow. If nothing else, it will make you think. And that's the important thing. It's not meant to necessarily sway you to one form of reasoning or philosophy or anything, but it shows you the potential of other areas that you can look at rather than black and white. They're grays. And not talking about aliens here, by the way. It was co-authored by Bernard Haisch and Marsha Sims, and Bernard is an astrophysicist. He's the author of over 130 scientific publications, was the scientific editor of the Astrophysical Journal, and is the author of The God Theory and the Purpose-Guided Universe. Marsha has a multidisciplinary background. Her past experience includes administrator at Lockheed Palo Alto Research Laboratory and executive editor at the Journal of Scientific Exploration, CEO Jovian Corporation, and co-author of this book. and a fascinating person to talk to. She's also quite musical and experienced in that field as well. It's kind of like in her spare time. So, welcome to the show, Marsha. I'm so glad that you could join me today.
Oh, it's my
Oops, there you
pleasure.
are.
It's my pleasure to be here. Hi, everybody.
I,
Greetings
this
from California.
this book was just so exciting to read. It must have been such a cool experience for you to um, co-author it with Bernard and get your thoughts down here. It must have been an exciting process as you were going along.
Well, I was really honored to be invited to help Bernie. We call him Bernie, that's his nickname. Write the
Okay.
book. Yeah. So the circumstances are he wrote three previous books by himself, pretty much, except the third book he wrote with Ptolemy Tompkins. But
Hmm.
then when he got to the fourth book, he had lots of electronic notes. But unfortunately, he has late stage Parkinson's and he wasn't able to type anymore. And so I knew he had all this wonderful information that he wanted to share. And he asked me, Marcia, I know you have great editorial skills and I know you could help me pull this book together. So I invite you to help me put it together and you can get credit as co author. So that was really exciting for me. And that he trusted me. He trusts me as his life partner, and he still does, even though he's quite ill right now. And I don't know, I'm hoping that there's still time for him, but he is in late stage Parkinson's. He can't interview anymore. But let me get back to the process of the book. So I gathered together all of his electronic notes and then used my editorial abilities to organize everything. And that took a while and developed a table of contents and just to help bring a focus to it. And I think one of the important things that I bring to the book is that I tried to make it more understandable to the layman because I
Yeah.
myself am not a scientist. I organize scientists. That's a skill.
I mean, you do go into quantum physics here, and I actually followed, didn't necessarily understand, but I followed what you were talking about. But while that is a part of the book, it's not the great part of the book. And it's he obviously is he's philosophical up the wazoo, and
Yeah.
I love the fact that his personality does come out. He's not stuffy. Is I guess what I want to say.
He has a good sense of humor. Definitely he does. In fact, he liked horsing around with me, and he even did a couple of musical theater productions with me. Even though he's a scientist, he, you know, kind of lightened up, put on a top hat and grabbed a cane, and he sang in The Merry Widow. It was really cute.
Well, I what I like is that here and there you could, there were side comments which, I loved because, he wasn't coming through as this is my philosophy, don't diddle with it. It's kind of like, or maybe, and the, you did such a beautiful job of organizing it all. And so the title of the book is The Miracle of Our Universe. What is the miracle of our universe?
Well, the miracle of our universe is based on actually Bernie's really pretty famous quote: "Advances are made by answering questions, but discoveries are made by questioning answers." That's a miracle of the universe. Question all of the answers. You can find hidden truths everywhere if you question the answers. Don't just think because something has been answered that it's really the correct answer or all of the answer. There's always more to learn. So
Yeah.
that's a miracle right there. But I guess I would say it has to do with the fact you alluded to that Bernie and I presented the book not as if it were a dogma, but that they're ideas to consider. And really, he intended this to be a scientific model, the way he treated his other papers.
Yeah.
So he put together ideas about the virtual reality, cosmic simulation, what is God, what happens to you after you die, what is the afterlife like, what are near death experiences, what is spirituality, what is Christianity, um, how do you, I touched upon this, how do you experience an awakening of the heart? And how do you see your past life experiences? So those are all miracles in the universe. But I think that the primary idea is that the universe was created by a vast cosmic consciousness, and consciousness is really all there is. And so we use the term God, but God's not really the traditional God, not that use. It's not a desert patriarch who sits on a throne in clouds and has angels fly around him and sing his
Yeah.
praise. No, it's God as a consciousness. And we are co-creators along with that cosmic consciousness. We create our reality around us along with God. We learn from God, God learns from us. We're the eyes and ears of God. I'd say that's a miracle too, isn't it?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
We are sparks of God and we create reality with God. And God, by the way, I just want to say up front, God is not a he, God is not a she, God is not an it. God is a consciousness. If I use the word he, it's only because traditionally God has been identified as a he and more
Yeah.
people can understand the use of he. But I might throw in she some places.
Well, maybe he, she.
He, she, yeah.
I know that I've been involved in the mystical, metaphysical for a very long time. And oftentimes before I've done meditations or led something, if there's been a prayer beforehand, I always start out with Father, Mother, God, because, it's, I interviewed a rabbi, Rabbi Dosick, actually. He's well known, and he wrote a great book. And in the book, he talked about talking to God sitting on a park bench while their dogs played. And, and so I said to him, it's a good thing to feel you have a personal connection with God. So, and I said, so God has a dog. And he said, well, I assumed so. And I said, then does Mrs. God have a cat? And he sat back and he said, she'd have to, wouldn't she? I said, yes. But
I
it,
I
and
think
we,
all animals are sparks of God too, by
oh
the
my
way.
goodness, yes,
I wanted to add that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a cat person, and I have a dog minor. Um, so I think that the aspect of God is something that has has bothered me, the way people talk about him and his throne, and surrounding, with angels and archangels and everything. That to me has never resonated. Now, a consciousness resonates totally. And so I don't even call God God. I describe it as the divine. Because when you talk God, for me, you're talking, Norse gods and Greek gods and Roman gods and, great spirits and, the whole thing. So if I call it the divine, only to take it out of that other category and not limit it to the term God. But for now, for today, for this
You could also
period of
call
time,
God the source.
and the source, another good one,
Yeah.
source of all creation.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine with that. So, and I've been tossing all this around a lot lately. And even as I get to the point where I have kind of a definition to it, if God is the source of all creation, if God is the creator of all, where did he come from?
Where did God come from?
Yeah.
Well, we have a theory, and we
Okay.
got it from Jewish mysticism, from the Kabbalah, that there previously existed a vast nothingness called the Ein Sof.
Okay.
And out of that Ein Sof, the vast nothingness, the consciousness emerged. And well, we're not sure how this consciousness emerged. It just came about.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's hard to go back past that, further back than that. But anyway, this consciousness emerged, and it got lonely, because what do you do if you're a consciousness and you have no one to interact with, nothing to do? You just
Yeah.
exist. Didn't want to just exist in a vast, outside of a vast nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to create a universe. So, as in John 1:1, the idea of the logos uh, is expressed. In the beginning was the logos, was the word. We read in John 1:1. So if you look at the definition of logos, logos means an expression of a thought in Greek.
Okay.
However, in many English Bibles or interpretations of that, logos means word, but it also means expression of a thought. And that's what consciousness is, and that's what we are, an expression of a thought. God thought into existence the vast universe. So logos perfectly resonates with both interpretations. Next, God created, this is something radically different because Bernie's a scientist, created the 0-point field, which is a very vast magnetic force that permeates all of existence, all of the universe. And previously, Bernie was always toying with the idea, well, I have to keep this really scientific. I can't get into the metaphysics of it. But then I convinced him, as he got sick, but I think I convinced him that God used the 0-point energy to create the universe because it's a very powerful force. And I'm going to tell you more about it and Bernie's idea for his invention later. But we're talking about how did the universe came about first.
Yeah.
So he used a 0-point field and created a very single point that got, this has to do with the Big Bang, that got so dense and full of energy that it just exploded. And it exploded, and all of the universe just came out of that single point.
Is this our Big Bang theory?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. Well, I'll tell you more about that. I need to probably give the definition to people that aren't scientists. I didn't used to know what it meant either. So, by the way, Bernie, he's taught me a lot. I have a lot to be grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
So then out of this Big Bang, all of the galaxies emerged, all the stars, all the planets, and all the beings. We'll go down to planet Earth right now. So we're built out of star stuff. Carl Sagan said that we are completely built out of star stuff.
Okay.
Everything on our planet is, by the way. And then came the sentient creatures because God wanted to be able to evolve and co-create new things. So he needed sentient beings with free will to help she create some stories and some adventures and some lessons. So that includes human beings, that includes all the animals on the planet, and the plants. Plants have consciousness also. There have been a lot of studies about that. Anything that has awareness, God created it, and we're all co-creators with God. Does that make good sense to you?
Oh no, it does. Except, I mean, I'm fine with the plants and the animals and everything, but why did he create humans?
Why did he create humans? Because we're the top of the chain, and I think it has to do with a greater mental power, although we may not be the most intelligent beings in the universe. We don't know. We only know about humans here on planet Earth. There could be alien beings that are way more intelligent than we are, that
And probably are.
probably are. I'm sure there are, by the way. But here on Earth, we have the most intelligent brain power, and we can co create reality with God, and we have free will, and we can create all sorts of adventures, and God can learn from us. I think that's why God created humans. Like if
Well,
God wants to experience skiing on a slope, God can't, because he's a consciousness. He can't put skis on and, ski suit and jacket and, get his ski poles and shush down the mountain. The only way he can experience it is through us.
so
Yeah.
so the physical reality is a sensation that an etheric consciousness does not have.
That's what we believe. But
I,
it does
I
have it
agree.
if it, because we're sparks of God. So that's how God does have that experience through us.
Okay. No, that's what I got. From the book, and that um, as an etheric form, and our spirit, when we pass over, our spirit moves on. The body, of course, doesn't, but the spirit does, because the spirit is a part of that essence, and the spirit is immortal as well. So it's an etheric. It becomes an etheric energy once more, until, of course, it decides to take physical form again and send information back home.
Yeah. That's
So,
complete. Yeah. We completely resonate with what you're saying. Yep.
so in a sense, are we not only in human form, are we sharing physical experiences, but in a way, um, helping the source to expand upon its awareness of the potential, because while love is of course it's not physical. Well, it can be expressed that way, but the element of love is an energy in and of itself. So if two energies are sharing love and creating a greater love, then again, that's something that the source could not experience in and of itself.
Correct. Although I believe the source, we both believe the source really loves us infinitely. Oh, are we frozen? Uh-oh.
Because that's far greater than we're capable of.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a freeze there.
Yeah, it glitched. It goes
Oh,
in and out.
okay, okay. That's all right. We'll just talk past it.
Yeah, you keep talking. I mean, the audio keeps going.
Oh, okay.
So, so you talked about um, virtual reality, and that we are living in a virtual reality. How do you explain that?
Okay, before I explain that, I just want to also finish up what I was saying about how was the universe created, because I forgot to add this, although you brought up the subject of love, and I think it's really important that I just expand upon it a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. So God created the universe with the energy of love, which is not just a warm, fuzzy feeling, but actually a powerful force. Love enhances consciousness in a strong emotional expression, creates inspiration, and an attraction that's binding. And we know that all of us who've had an experience of being in love with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
a strong attraction. And that's how God feels towards us, too. So the virtual reality. So I guess I should say Bernie took his inspiration from reading the book The Simulation Hypothesis by Rizwan Virk. And he raised the fundamental question of whether we are characters inside a simulated reality that is so well rendered that we cannot distinguish it from physical reality. So Bernie got very interested in this idea, and he talked about it with me a lot, and then I got interested. And he used this idea, being a scientist, a physicist, and an astrophysicist, by the way. He's really interested about how atoms exist and how they interact with the various other particles. And he used the example with me to understand how there could be a virtual reality is consider the atom. We used to think of it as a miniature solar system. This is how I thought of it, and I was taught when I was in grade school. And we thought of it as electrons orbiting around a nucleus, but now it's viewed more abstractly. It's seen as a nucleus being surrounded by electrons that form a cloud of probability. That means you never can really be sure where the electrons might be. And he was really interested in Heisenberg, who saw atoms and elementary particles themselves as potentialities rather than things or facts. They themselves are not real. They form a world of potentialities. So this opens the door for virtual reality. There's this measurement problem in quantum physics that intrigued Bernie. How is it possible if you cut open your armchair and take a measurement of a few electrons inside, those electrons will be promoted into existence by virtue of being measured, but the unmeasured electrons will be left to languish in a cloud of probability? So right there, that points to the fact that what we think is a solid world around us actually is a world of probabilities. It's not as solid as we think. It looks solid on the level where we're using our human eyes, but if you go down to the microscopic level and below that, there are huge spaces between atoms and between particles. So it's quite different in the quantum world.
Yeah, I've read a couple of books that talked about how this reality is really the virtual reality from a two-dimensional plane, so that even though we feel really real, we're really just projections from a different dimension. And I don't know, when I overeat and get a stomach ache, it's pretty real. If I cut myself, do I not bleed?
Yeah, sprain your ankle, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand virtual reality. I've seen virtual stuff, and it does seem real. It absolutely does. But the reality is that when I take off the glasses, it feels pretty solid under my feet. And I understand if you go down to the molecular level, yes, it's teeny tiny little itty bitty little teeny weeny little quarks or whatever is smaller than that. But and I tell people all the time that you create your reality by your perception of it. So in a way, we are creating our realities by if it's our perception, that in a way we are making a virtual thought pattern into reality by living it.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So it's a little quirky.
Well, if you think of yourself like a game, inside a video game, I don't play these really very much, but I have. But, you choose an avatar, and the avatar goes through all sorts of trials and tribulations. And, if somebody hits him with a sword or hits him with a hammer, I mean, he falls over. Well, we're inside this projection of this greater consciousness. And so inside this world, it does seem really hard and real to us.
But in reality, it is the case, because the spirit that rides within us, our physicality, is an avatar for that spirit.
That's correct.
So in a way that would make this a virtual reality for the spirit that's riding inside the avatar.
Right. You got it. You expressed it really well, better than I did. Thank you.
Just came to me out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. We come from an oversoul. Our spirit, our oversoul projects us into different characters, different
Yeah.
lives. And
And
so,
yeah, and actually, that this leads to the fact that we've had different avatars in different incarnations of the spirit.
right.
And so, what are the purpose? It's not hopscotching through time. It's not, oh, I'm going to be something, I'm going to be a queen next time, or I'm going to be, nobody actually, puts in for, I'm going to clean stables my entire life. But we've all had that one too. But so what are the purpose of the past lives and having millions of them, and we probably have had millions of them.
Yeah, I don't know how many I've had. I do recall that I had 35 past lives because I had a near death experience that pulled back the curtain, which I
Hmm.
can share with you. But I do know that, I mean, some of my more recent lives, I even looked up some of them. They were really interesting. I even have a recording of me singing when I was an Austrian operetta singer.
Really?
Yeah, 1903, yeah.
Can you sing this lifetime?
Yes, I'm an opera singer.
Oh, wow.
I
And
s-
you trace that back to a time where you were an opera singer.
well, I think it's just part of who I am. I think that uh, when I'm in heaven, which is my home between lives,
Hmm.
I think that I probably sing with a lot of people that love to sing, the beings that sing. I think singing is a beautiful expression of love and light. And it really, to me, when I sing, I open my heart and my soul, and I just channel music. So, yeah, I think I'm always a singer, but yeah, my last life I was a singer. I was actually a little more famous last life than this one. This life I've been more a community theater opera
Hmm.
singer, but I've had some really good roles. I sang the role of Carmen.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's definitely a role for sure.
Yeah, that was the challenge of my singing lifetime, I'd say.
Well, it's funny. My sister and I have the same voice. People can't tell us apart on the telephone. I used to accept dates for her um, when we were. She really hated me for it. So I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
However, I can talk, but she can sing,
Ah.
and I can't carry a tune in a bushel basket. Much as I'd like to. I love music. I've told everybody I sang in a church choir only because they had to take me. It was church,
Mm.
and they would just put me near the loudest singer and hope that I would be overwhelmed um, by their voice, and I always was. But music is, you brought something up that is very special because music is is a tool and a gift and a quality that can take you into altered states of consciousness. There's no doubt about it.
Exactly.
And so how how can one use music to reach to the source?
Okay.
In my case, it's not through singing.
I want to say something before I answer that question. I just had this little boy student today. It was his fourth lesson. I think I could teach you how to sing. I do online teaching. You can go
Uh-huh.
to my website, marshasimsmusic.com. Anyone who wants to take voice lessons, piano or guitar, go to my website. And
Okay.
so he could barely match a pitch on his first lesson, and he could only sing a range of about a fifth. which is 5 whole steps on the piano.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked 4 lessons. I gradually was able to expand his range to get him to match pitch. And I started with simple songs like Yankee Doodle and Happy Birthday. And today he graduated from Frere Jacques, and he was completely on pitch, and he now can sing almost 2 octaves.
Wow.
I was stunned actually at the end of his lesson today. I mean, tears actually were starting to come to my eyes. I couldn't believe that he had all that locked up inside of him. He just didn't know how to get it out. I had to show him how. And I did. I was so excited about it. And I also had another student that couldn't match pitches when I started with him. I like for several months, I'd give him exercises just to match pitches. And by the time I was done working with him, he got the role of the head police sergeant in the Pirates of Penzance,
Oh,
which is
wow.
secondary lead. So there you go. I think it can happen, Barbara.
Not after 81 years, trust me.
Well, I'm throwing that to everyone, that idea out to everyone out there that's listening, that you can sing, and singing is really an amazing connection to God.
It is, but you know, I don't think you. I mean, and certainly you can be taught to sing. I absolutely believe that. But you don't have to be good to get the joy out of singing.
It's
I mean,
true.
I I always found that after a choir rehearsal, I was higher in a kite. It was just there was such a joyful feeling of blending first voices together and then with music as well, that it just it absolutely transcended any feeling of sadness or anything like that. You know, you if you are experiencing that kind of a sharing with other people, you can't help but be joyful. Music is joyful. There's no doubt about it.
Really joyful. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Even, I mean, obviously there's sad music, there's tragic music. You listen to soundtracks on scary movies or adventure movies. I mean, music can emit every kind of emotion, definitely.
So how do you utilize music? How does one utilize music if it's part of your spiritual journey? If you are going to incorporate it into your tool belt, so to speak. I mean, do you use solfeggio music? Do you use chanting? Do you use, how does one, even without a voice, use music to sort of open that channel to the infinite?
Well, I'd just like to go back a step because I want to talk about the mathematical nature of the universe and the
Sure.
mathematical nature of music. Because we were talking about the virtual universe. And so Bernie believes that God uses mathematical algorithms to create the virtual universe, and everything in our reality is based on math. Einstein actually was very interested in the fact that the laws of nature went along so well with laws of mathematics. And so then that ties us to music. So music is really closely tied to mathematics through harmonics. And this goes back to the idea of what Pythagoras did when he discovered that if you take a string and you uh, make it exactly half as long as the first length, you'll get an octave difference when it's plucked. And then there's Johann Sebastian Bach, the father of modern music, devised a system of tuning that is based on mathematics. In this system, the 12 notes of the octave of the standard keyboard are tuned in such a way that it is possible to play music in all major or minor keys without sounding perceptibly out of tune. So leave it to Bernie. He figured out the math behind it. Each step is the 12th root of 2 because there's 12 half steps in an octave.
Mm-hmm.
So there are other aspects of music such as rhythm, time signature, notations. They're all mathematical. And this mathematical nature of music makes me wonder whether God uses music as a mathematical expression through sound, or might it be possible that music is mathematical because the universe was designed by a pure mathematician? Music really does have the greatest influence on us of anything else in the world. It undergirds all of society, as you suggested already. And it's impossible to get away from it. It's pervasive around the planet in all forms, from Muslim calls to prayer, to classical symphonies, to operas and masses, rock and pop and rap. And then there's that hymn in the church that many of us have sung.
Oh,
All
yeah.
nature sings and round me rings the music of the spheres. So perhaps music, by its mathematical nature, is the universal expression for civilization and God. And me as a performer, I've experienced uh, group consciousness while performing on stage. And I remember one time when I was singing Carmen and I was so caught up in the character, I was no longer me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was so much music, 3 hours of music in French, that I had to sing it completely out of muscle memory. I couldn't even think about it. All I could do is flow with the orchestra and flow with the beauty of the music that Bizet wrote and be Carmen and connect with the audience. And it was an incredible high. I mean, the audience and I joined consciousness on the stage. And when I got to that point where I was one with the music, I was one with God.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can
The
totally
audience was
understand
there,
that.
but they were with me right there on stage. I felt it. It was great.
I a long time ago was I'd sit in a youth choir, and we went down to New York City and performed the Hallelujah chorus in this huge church. And at the rehearsal, there was nobody there, and I think the church sat. Gosh, a lot of people. It was like a cathedral, and because it was the rehearsal, um, with the organ playing and the adult choir and the youth choir singing, I mean, it just bounced off of everything, and it literally lifted all of us. It felt like being lifted off my feet. And at the end of the rehearsal, we were all crying. It
Yeah.
had been just that spectacular and moving. And then we had dinner, and then we did the service. And somebody commented to the choir director, it was beautiful. And he said, yeah, but you should have heard the rehearsal. With an empty church echoing back at you, the resonance it was just so overwhelming. Everybody had chills, everybody had tears in their eyes. I think it was one of the most moving experiences I've had in my lifetime. And I will never forget it. And again, my voice was not the best one in the group for sure, but I got carried away with it, and everybody was lifted by it. So, and I would go to church services because of the singing. I loved the singing. Didn't do it well, but I could sing, and nobody could say you're off key or they don't do that in church. Of course, my sister always told me when I was off, but
Well,
that's family for you.
yeah. Well, when I was in kindergarten, I was off key too. I trained myself. My kindergarten teacher didn't like me singing in class either. And I just decided I'm going to learn to sing. And I don't care what anyone says because I like it. And I learned to
Well,
sing.
I mean, that's I sing,
Yeah.
and I'm off, but I have a good time. And that's
Good.
I think that's the one thing I think people have to understand. With any creative process you're doing, if you are being creative, you are coming to a greater connection to joining the creator in the act of creating. And therefore, if it's a joyful experience for you, doesn't matter if you're good, so long as you're joyful, it opens that link and that connection to the source. And there's a flow of energy there that is so profound. It's unbelievable.
I agree. I've sung the Hallelujah chorus many times, and it really does exhilarate me. Really lifts me up, makes me feel one with God. That piece is special.
Oh yeah, and
Quantum channeled
it,
that. You told me
I,
that in our conversation.
no, it, and I think the creative process is is um, is one of the easiest ways to connect with the source. So long as you're joyful in what you're doing, you are connected. And people often say to me, well, I took workshops and I've done this and I've done that, and why have I not become more evolved? And I usually ask, what are you doing creatively? And it's, no, I'm too busy with all my workshops. I'm not being creative. And
Yeah.
if you're not involved in creation, then you're not a part of it. You're doing something in a physical reality, and you may be doing something really good in the physical reality, but if you're not getting joy from it, you're not connecting to the infinite. Because and again, you don't have to be good, you just have to take joy from it. And so if indeed we are part of this whole cycle here, how come bad things happen to good people?
Well, that's an age-old question.
I know, I had to throw it at you.
I know. Um, I got that idea from talking to my chiropractor. I asked him, I told him that Bernie and I were writing this book, The Miracle of Our Universe. And I said, do you have any subjects you'd like us to cover? Because we're looking for ideas to
Yeah.
research and talk about. And so he threw that question at me. Why do bad things happen to good people? So it's kind of perplexing, and it's definitely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But there is an answer in the God model, because remember, we are sparks of God's consciousness and we're temporarily inhabiting our virtual bodies. So we have a long road ahead of us, and we've had numerous lives in the past and numerous lives to come. And it could be the case that we have a karma to reckon with. Karma is destiny that you earn through your activities or your actions or your behavior. When we behave kindly, this is an example of a situation where you earn good karma. And the good things that come to you may not be right away. They might be in the future. They could even be in a future life.
Yeah.
They will come to you. If you have negative karmic debts to pay, that could result in some bad things happening. So I guess that's our answer to why bad things happen to good people, that there's probably some karma to pay off, or possibly that you need this learning experience. And
I I think when people come to me for readings or for whatever, and they say, I've been a good person all my life, I've did this and all, chaos follows me around, and bad things happen. And I said, you sure they're bad? And it's like, yeah, I'm sure it's bad. And it's like, in my philosophy, this is philosophy according to Barbara. If bad things happen, you should be excited, because what it means is you've grown so much that it's time for you to move to the next step of evolution. And this is your stepping stone. You get through it, and you get to the point where you have gone beyond it, And it's your way of, it's the universe's way of saying, congratulations, take a step up. And that's all it is. So if you have a lot of bad things happening, congratulations, your spiritual evolution is just unbelievable. Don't complain. You should be excited, because this is the universe's way of saying to you, well done. Here's your next step.
Yeah, that's well put, Barbara. That's good. That's also a very good answer to that question. It's a
Well,
great.
it kind of, when somebody calls and is hysterical because they lost their job, I say, oh, that's great. You didn't like it anyhow. You didn't have the brains to quit when you should have, so the universe arranged it. So now let's get on to the better stuff.
Yeah, I have to give the example of something that I thought was horrible that happened to me. I was working for an internet company and I got laid off, and and the owner was going bankrupt, by the way, so the
Oh,
whole company
geez.
was crashing. Yeah, it was very devastating because I'd really put a lot of energy into that job. And at the time that it happened, we went and filed. Bernie and I both worked for the company, and we went down to the court and filed bankruptcy, and tried to sue the company, but the owner didn't have any money because he went bankrupt.
Oh, geez.
So seemed like a really horrible thing. But you know what happened? It turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to me, because I got unemployment for a couple of months, and that gave me time to set up my music teaching business, which is what I had always wanted to do. But when you start a music teaching business, it starts out small and it has to grow.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for it to expand. And then before I knew it, I found a music teaching job with the traveling music school, and I went out to schools and I taught children. And then after a while, I did that for a couple of years, and I had a lot of joy in that. I went to 3 different schools. And then the owner decided he needed to move on, and he released all the students that I had at those 3 schools to me as private students. So I got to take all of the money. I was only getting part salary because I was working for this music school. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, my income tripled. And
Okay.
yeah, so that wasn't bad at all. I just didn't know the outcome. God was
Um,
blessing me.
a long time ago now, um, I was doing spiritual work, but still teaching school. I was a special ed teacher. And people kept saying to me, oh, you should do the spiritual stuff full time. And, you're good and you're wonderful and all that. And I said at the time, you're crazy. Do you have any idea what I'm making and all of my perks when I retire? If anybody's interested, I will certainly do this work full time, because it is the love of my life. And I said, when I retire, I will do it full time. One time too many. I had a car accident.
Oh,
I was forced into early retirement in my 40s.
oh,
And
wow.
since then, I have been doing this work full time and getting such great joy out of it. And because of the accident, um, I got my pension early. I got retirement. I got my Social Security disability. It was really hysterical, because by the time everything was done and settled, the checks that I was getting equaled my last paycheck.
Wow.
The same thing, it was. And so I caution people, if you really are uncomfortable and you really think you should be doing something else, I suggest you get on with it rather than waiting for the universe to decide for you. Because, because of the accident, I have vertigo,
Mm.
and it's not bad, but it was at first. And I jokingly said to my mother once that I was going to check out rug companies and see if I could get to work for them. And she said, why? And I said, I end up on the floor so often, I might as well earn money while I'm down there and check the pile on the carpet. But it all works out. It does work out. And so long as you are not malingering and not trying to, bilk the government for whatever is out there, it was, the car accident was frightening. And I had my mother in the car at the same time. And I remember saying to her, do you have your nitroglycerin? And she said, you can't blow anything up with it. I said, no, 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 no. I don't want you to have a heart attack. Just hold on to the bottle, while they drag us off the bridge. And it was not a pleasant experience, but I got so much from it. And not financially as much as the opportunity to do what I love to do the most.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, I'm not a Pollyanna, but I think that if people take a look at their life and where their joy is, and they move towards the joy, they can't help but be successful. They just can't help but be. And that doesn't mean they're rich. It just means they're joyful.
Right. Well, oodles of money is not everything, as we know. We just want to have comfortable lives and not be fearful, but we want to be joyous in our income. I mean, honestly, when I was working for that internet company, it was kind of dreary, and stressful. It wasn't that much fun. And now that I'm teaching music, and especially after that boy that I taught today, I'm so exhilarated to see
That
how.
is so neat.
Yeah.
Well, having a lot of money is, I look at people that, win lotteries and stuff, and then all they do is worry about losing it.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
don't have to worry about it. I live day to day and it works, but I don't have so much that I can sit back and eat bonbons by the fire. Well, especially not in the summer, but actually bonbons by the fire maybe once would be kind of fun, but it's you have a reason to work, you have a reason to get on with it, whatever your joy is. And I mean, this is a wonderful book, and I can't recommend it. Yeah, please hold it up.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, let me see if I can pull. I'm going to turn me off. Okay.
Got the picture of it.
Yeah. I just
We
think
put my web address in the chat. Can you do that?
Sure.
Yeah. If I put it, okay. So we have a website for the book. It's www.themiracleofouruniverse.com, just like the book.
And I have to tell everybody, and I don't really push books often. I'll say it's a good book, I enjoyed it, but this is a book everybody should get, because the information in it is so thought-provoking, is so enlightening. It will stretch you. You may not agree, but that's okay too. If it makes you think, that's even better. But the information that is in the book is fabulous, and it presents you a platform to grow from, to reach from, and if you're on a spiritual journey, this is a must-have. There's no doubt about it. It's really that good a book.
Wow. I'm so grateful that you appreciate it so much. It means a lot to me, Barbara. It really does, because we put our heart and souls into it.
You can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell. Now, is there going to be another book?
I don't know. I would like to write a book about the joy and the power of music. And Bernie says he has another book in him. So I don't know if it's going to happen or not. He is actually on a current revolutionary clinical trial using Ambroxol, Ambroxol. Yeah, they're In the UK, at the College of London, they're in phase 3 of the clinical studies, and they're seeing positive results. So, an angel gifted us a supply of Ambroxol that we're trying. And we'll see how Bernie does. I have to say, already he's thinking more clearly. He's been taking it for a month.
I would think there's at least another book here. I mean, between the two of you. You may have to type a lot, but
I have to type a lot, yeah. Might have to get a computer to interpret what he's trying to say. The speech is difficult for him right now.
I would say that there's definitely another book here, and it just feels like he's got more to say, and he'll find a way of saying it. And no reason why you can't write a book too.
Well, yeah.
I mean, maybe you should just play with writing a book, and when he's ready, he'll let you know, and then you two can write another book, because this book it's a totally must-have book for anybody on a spiritual journey. The quantum physics stuff is great stuff, and I've hit it in a couple of different books, so I had a really good understanding of what he was talking about, and I like the stuff that do you know something has to be observed in order to happen, which I felt I love that. How do they know? How do those molecules know?
Yeah.
But
I didn't say one phrase that I think I should add about quantum entanglement, because that's really important to the virtual reality concept.
okay.
So there is this concept of quantum entanglement that proves beyond a doubt that matter is not a solid, fixed thing. Because when quantum entanglement happens, there are two particles that are linked together in a certain way, and they stay linked together no matter how far apart they are in space. They could be on the other side of the galaxy, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
still be linked. So one of the mysteries of our world is just how every photon of light, every electron and quark, and indeed every point of space itself, seems to just know what to do at each moment. The mystery is that these tiniest parts of the universe have no mechanisms or structures by which to make those decisions. Only God could make those decisions.
Don't you find it interesting that the big things we figure out, it's the teeny things that drive us crazy?
That's right, because we can't even see it.
Yeah.
We can't really hold it in the palm of our hand.
Oh,
We have to look at it through microscopes.
yeah.
Super.
Well, I want to thank you so very much. This has been such a great hour, and I so enjoyed talking to you.
Do I have a moment to tell you about the 0 point field? Because this is one really exciting aspect of Bertie's work. I could
Sure.
go through it in about 5 minutes. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Because I think Bernie has come up with a revolutionary experiment and idea about how to tap energy from the 0 point field. The 0 point field, with its attendant 0 point energy, the ZPE, is broadly recognized as a vast field of electromagnetic energy. It's also known as the quantum vacuum field, the QVF. This field represents the underlying energy that is everywhere in the universe, even where there is nothing else but a vacuum. The ZPE is composed of a combination of every frequency or wavelength that exists. Some are short and others are long, but it's perfectly random. The ZPF is an infinite source of energy. It was already known to Einstein and Max Planck. We believe, so this is the company I'm the CEO of, Jovion Corporation.
Mhm.
So our web address is www.jovion.com. We believe that the ZPF can be tapped in a way that would provide humanity with an endless supply of totally clean energy, without violating the second law of thermodynamics. Our process has nothing to do with heat, it is electromagnetic. There is a Casimir force that happens when two parallel metal plates are pushed together by an overpressure of the ZPE from outside the plates. A Casimir cavity can be created that takes advantage of this force. The ZPF can be manipulated through the use of nano-sized Casimir cavities by squeezing out photon energy. Photons are little particles of light.
Mhm.
Electron orbitals of an atom spiral down inside the cavity and photons are emitted. Our process then sends the photons through a photovoltaic cell and electricity will be generated. So the ZPF acts as a kind of catalyst. This could be done with what we at Jovian Corporation have called the Casimir generator. I named it. It's going to be a portable generator. Bernie and Garrett Modell founded this company. I'm the CEO. Hugo Trux is the president. We have a scientific invention that is game-changing because of its revolutionary clean energy technology that would combat climate change. This process requires no fossil or nuclear fuel and emits no waste, carbon, or harmful byproducts. So this is where it goes back to what Bernie said at the beginning and what I said about God used the ZPE to create the universe.
Yeah.
The ZPE may be an expression or thought of God. So this underlies all matter, and there's energy that pops into and out of existence in our reality. New Age beliefs, I do have to say, the New Age beliefs sometimes misinterpret the ZP as being God, but no, Bernie and I believe it's an expression of God, and God created it. So remember what I said in the beginning, that the Logos or the Word was with God, and the Word was God?
Yes.
So it's reasonable to consider the possibility that the 0-point field and the Logos are one.
Interesting.
So this is why I had to say this, because I really want people to know about this Casimir generator, because I think it's really important. And we're looking for investors to help us create our final prototype. We've had some experiments in the laboratory, and we've gotten some positive energy bursts or results, but we don't have a completely repeatable experiment. We need to build the prototype.
Mhm.
We've used this lab in Canada, George Hathaway Research International. He's very credible scientist and engineer, and he's waiting to go in his lab. And we've got the idea. All we need is some funds so that we can really make this a reality.
Well, hopefully people will check out the website
I hope
and
so. Yeah,
we'll see what comes from that.
that's right. So thank you for letting me talk about it.
Oh,
Now I've intrigued you, I hope.
no. And I do thank you again. It's been a true joy to have you on the show, and keep me posted.
Okay, Barbara.
Take care now.
For inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
It has been my pleasure. Take care now.
Okay.